Welcome to the Germans from Russia experience. I am your host, Elisa Rodriguez, and I am here to inspire you to learn anything and everything about your own family heritage by providing information and sharing stories and experiences about a special group of people, the Germans from Russia. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I am so excited to be here with my very first episode. My name is Elisa, and I am the host and creator. I have here with me today my very good friend and producer, Annie Anderson. Say hi, Annie.
Hello.
So, why am I doing this? I am doing this because I am a natural teacher and I love to share. And I've learned so much in the last few years about Germans from Russia that I want to share it in a different way. So, this podcast is going to explore our history, heritage, traditions, foods, music, and other topics. I have discovered over the last few years that the more a person learns about their own ancestors, the more that they can learn and understand about themselves. I want to share this concept with others through information, interviews, and stories. I keep things. I have a lot of things that belong to my ancestors. I have documents, photos, and even items. For instance, I have a deck of playing cards that belong to one of my great grandfathers. I have jewelry from both of my grandmothers, clothing, eyeglasses, and of course, all those papers. I've been called the family historian, and that's a title that I enjoy as I do love keeping these things and sharing them with my family. I'm also a volunteer and a board member at the Central California chapter of the American Historical Society of Germans from Russia. It is a research library and a museum. I'm on the board as the Publicity and Promotions Chairperson. When I was young, I took my heritage for granted. I just didn't realize that I came from a special group of people. I thought I was just regular like everybody else. My paternal grandparents were Germans from Russia, from Volga villages. Harry Lung, my grandfather, his family came from Straub, and Catherine Marcus, my grandmother, came from Kukis when she was 7 years old. I now value the experiences of my ancestors, and I continue to learn more as I just continue to ask questions. At one point, I thought I knew everything there was to know just because I didn't think the information was out there. But there's always more to learn, and I continue to find more. For instance, in April, I received some items from my aunt's estate, and there was a Bible that belonged to my grandparents in there. I opened it up and there was writing. There were family members' names in there that I recognized, their birth dates, wedding dates, and so on. So I'm reading through them all thinking, oh, I know all these people. These people are all in my family tree. And then I turn the page and there it says my grandparents, which were my grandmother's grandparents, and it had their names. I had never seen these names before. I was very excited. I went right to my computer, put these names in my family tree, and some wonderful things started happening, which I'll be sharing with you later. In the past few years, I have met dozens of Germans from Russia descendants. They're at the Historical Society. I've met people. I've even met about a dozen cousins, not all in person, some were online, but through the American Historical Society and also through my DNA matches in Ancestry. Cousins just keep popping up. I've listened to their stories and started to make connections with some of these people. Our common heritage really is a positive thing in my life. I really enjoy these connections with these new people that I've found, cousins. So about 3 summers ago, I was sitting in the research library at the Historical Society, and there was this woman there doing some research. Her name was Cindy. She was looking for the maiden name of her great-grandmother. This was her father's grandmother, who did come to America. However, she only lived less than 10 years before she passed away. So she was also looking for a death certificate, where this woman was buried. She had no idea of those questions. But the one she was looking for that day was trying to locate this woman as a baby in a village. So she's looking around and she says, "Oh, the name Teresa. You don't see Teresa very often." And I said, "No, you don't." I said, "But my great grandfather had a sister named Teresa and they called her Rose." She looked up at me and got big eyes and she said, "They called my great grandmother Rose too." And I said, "Oh my gosh." And we looked really quickly, realizing, well, it wasn't the same person, but they did live in the same village and they were born the same year. So we were interested to find out if they had a connection. And I quickly made up this fantasy in my mind and I said, "Oh, I bet they were best friends. They were pregnant at the same time." And they said, "Oh, if we have daughters, let's name them the same name, Teresa, and call them Rose." And we laughed about it and thought it was a great story. So a few days later, I was home and I was looking through my DNA matches and I saw Cindy's name. And I called her and I said, "Cindy, do you have your DNA and ancestry?" And she said, "I do." And I said, "We're cousins." And we laughed about it and we said, "Oh gosh, we have to meet and find out how we're connected then. There must be more to this Teresa Rose story." So we met up at the research library and we worked and worked for about 12 hours total. And what we discovered was that the mothers of each of our Teresa Roses were first cousins. So my little fantasy story of them being best friends and having their daughters at the same time and giving them the same names could be true. If they were first cousins, they probably were close. So they did live in the same village. So we went with that. We really liked the story. As I've been meeting all of these descendants of Germans from Russia in the last few years, one of the things that really brings us all together is thinking about and admiring our ancestors for the struggles that they went through, the hardships they endured, the tragedies that happened in their lives. Now, also talking to these people, they remind us that our ancestors, our grandparents and great grandparents, were not forthcoming about these hard times. These were not things that they talked about or shared. It's come down, later on in life that we've discovered these hardships and things and really brought them to light. So it's something that we share and that we understand as a rich common story of our people. And there's always more to learn and find out. I'm continuing to answer questions that I have about my ancestors and dig for those answers. And my hope with this podcast is that you will also start to have these questions and want to find these answers about your own family. By hearing stories, you will start making connections and realizations to your own family story. You will feel the strength and resilience of our people and also start to understand how their stories still live in us. Hopefully you're starting to think, what does it mean to be a German from Russia? Why and when did Germans go to Russia? Why did they leave Russia? And how did they get here? Also, what is my family story? If you have any of these questions at this point, I hope you continue to listen, as I'll be gathering experts and others that know these answers or can help you to find these answers. Please know that it is my intention with this podcast will provide you with information that will promote reflection about what our ancestors endured and the successes they celebrated, as well as prompt you to ask questions concerning your ancestors and inspire you to seek those answers. Well, that's all I have for you today. See you next time. Goodbye. Thank you for listening to the Germans from Russia experience. I hope that something you heard today will inspire you to learn anything and everything you can about your ancestors. If you like what you heard, please leave a review, like, and share this podcast. You can comment directly by emailing us at thegermansfromrussiaexp@gmail.com. Please see our show notes for sources and website suggestions to begin or continue your discovery of your Germans from Russia roots. My podcast artwork is by Matt Wall. My producer is Annie Anderson.